This video will show you how to replace the front brakes, pads, and rotors on a Ford Transit-250. This will be located behind your front wheel. Let's get into it. A quick note about replacing your front brakes: you are going to have to remove your front wheel bearing. After the replacement of this part, you will want to get yourself a four-wheel alignment. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. Safely raise and support the front end of the vehicle so your front wheel's off the ground. Now once we've done that, we're going to be using a 21mm to remove all 5 of our lug nuts. Then we can remove that wheel. Let's set that aside. Now that we have the wheel off, we have a clear view of our front brake caliper. We need to push back our caliper pistons. Now I'm just going to do this easily using a small prying device directly in this area here. I want to press in between the caliper and the brake rotor. Just a gentle amount of pressure here. We really don't need much. Now that I have that pushed back, I'm going to make my way to my 2 caliper slider pin bolts. For these, I'm using a 15mm. I want to try to break these free. There we are. Let's make our way to our 21mm caliper bracket mounting bolts. Quick inspection. Let's start it back in a couple threads. That'll prevent this from falling down while we continue on. Both of those bolts look the same. You don't need to worry about mixing them up. We'll take hold of that caliper. Go ahead and fully remove that bolt that we had started back in. We can remove that caliper. Let's set this aside temporarily. We're going to hang this so it's putting no pressure on our flex hose. Continuing on, we need to have a look in this area. Now we can see that we have 5 bolts right out in the open, but there's actually going to be 5 more bolts that are hidden deep inside of this area. You're going to have to carefully turn this while looking inside. Inside this area, you're going to find that you have 5 T50 Torx bolts that need to be removed. During the removal, we're going to be removing the wheel bearing from the knuckle. So now for this, we're going to have an extended T50 because we have to get deep in this area. There's one of our mounting bolts. Continue on to all others. Let's make our way all the way around here. So now at this point, there's really nothing holding this in place, holding the wheel bearing to our steering knuckle located behind it, an exception of rust. So we're just going to carefully tap on this and breaking it free. Keep in mind, this can be heavy. We don't want it to fall and potentially hurt you. Now I've got this on the bench so we can start separating our wheel bearing hub assembly from our brake rotor. Looking at the condition of this, you can tell that we do have to replace each one of these parts. Either way, we're going to remove all 5 of our 13mm mounting bolts. Do the same for all others. Let's get this one out of there. Okay, that's all the mounting bolts. At this point, we can start separating the bearing from the brake rotor. To separate this, I'm going to use a small chunk of wood down along the bottom here. It's fairly soft. I'm going to rest my wheel bearing against it. Now I'm going to continue on with a rubber mallet, and I'm going to tap along my braking surface, trying to break this free from the wheel bearing. Just make our way all the way around. Let's go ahead and separate this. Now as we lift this up, we're paying attention to the brake rotor in comparison to the wheel bearing. Let's have a look from the back side here so we can see exactly what we're looking at. Looking at the wheel bearing flange, we can see that we do have the areas where our mounting bolts are. Those need to align with the slots on our brake rotor. As I turn this, you can see that they will align if we just go ahead and spin this carefully in the proper direction. I do have a lot of rot here. Slide it right out of there. There it is, friend. Now that we have our brake rotor separated from our wheel bearing, if you're intending on reusing the wheel bearing, you need to make sure you clean the mounting surface out along this area and along the inboard side along the mounting points. Once you have everything cleaned, we can prepare for installation. Let's prepare our brand new brake rotor for installation. We'll make sure we clean both sides of our braking surfaces, the outboard and the inboard side. Clean rag and some parts cleaner. Perfect. Let's get ready to install the brake rotor onto our wheel bearing. As far as this, we want to make sure we carefully slide the wheel bearing in through the forward portion of our brake rotor. You can tell that it needs to align, and then we're going to align each port for our mounting bolts. Once you have that rested in place, we're going to align those ports, and we can start in each one of those bolts as I mentioned. So we have our 13mm headed mounting bolts. I've cleaned the threads, and I like to use blue thread locker. We're going to start in each of our mounting bolts prior to tightening any of them. Once we have them all bottomed out, we can torque them to 22 foot-pounds. Now when we go to torque this, you may find that the whole thing wants to move on you. To help prevent that, I'm just going to use a pry bar. We'll use this as a leverage across our lug studs, being careful not to cause any damage. Just gonna come around all these. Now prior to installation, we need to make sure we clean and inspect our mounting surface. As far as this is concerned, we can see our steering knuckle in this area. One note about this is during the cleaning process, I can see right here where the tip of my finger is, we have our ABS wheel speed sensor protruding through. Be careful not to cause any damage to that sensor, otherwise it needs to be replaced. I'm going to clean along the flange area here, and I'll carefully make my way along the inboard side, removing as much debris as possible. For this, we can use some sandpaper, a cleaning disc, or even a wire brush. Now we're going to clean inside of the circular port. I'm using my wire brush, once again being careful for our ABS wheel speed sensor. Now we can get our wheel bearing and brake rotor in place. We want to make sure we have our bolts cleaned. We'll have some thread locker. Let's go ahead and start in each of these mounting bolts once we have that wheel bearing in place. Now before we get this in place, let's have a quick look along the back side. We're looking at the wheel bearing flange. Now if you were looking at the flange itself, you can see that it does have ears where the bolts go through, and if you could see the brake rotor through that, you can see that we have ports for our mounting bolts. While we have it in this position, let's just attempt to align those as close as possible, and we can get this in position on the steering knuckle. As I bring this up, I'm attempting to match this up with the knuckle. Now we're going to have to hold this in place. Keep in mind it can be heavy. Let's start in each of those mounting bolts, and then we'll carefully bottom them out. Using my T50. My adapter does fall out of my socket. That's okay. Now we'll just do the same for all others. Let's bottom this out and torque it to 46 foot-pounds. Now when we snug these up, let's go crisscross here. We're going to form a star. Now we can focus on the caliper and the caliper bracket. We've already loosened our bolts. Let's remove the bolts holding the caliper to the bracket. A quick inspection of those will set them aside. Let's separate the caliper bracket from the caliper. Now that I have that separated, a thorough inspection of the caliper piston area. If you see any fluid making its way out of the dust boots, that means the internal seals are bad and you want to replace the caliper. Clearly this does look good. Let's push back our caliper pistons as far as possible. I'm going to rest this here temporarily. To push in the caliper pistons, you can use one of your original brake pads. Rest it against the caliper pistons. When we press these in, we need to press them both at the same time. If you were to press only one, commonly the other will come out. One last quick inspection of that caliper, and we can temporarily hang this aside. When we do so, let's make sure we're putting no pressure on that flex hose. We're focusing on the caliper bracket and those brake pads now. I have this on the bench. Let's remove each of our 2 brake pads. Of course, we are replacing these, but I like to give them a quick inspection. If it looks like they're worn at an angle, you might find that you have an issue with one of your caliper slider pins, or it could have just been stuck in place. Either way, we're completely removing everything from the bracket to fully clean it. We'll set each of these brake pads aside for recycling. On each side of the brake caliper, you're going to find that you have brake caliper tins. We can pry those out of place. You may need to use a tool, or you could do it by hand, whatever's easiest for you. A quick inspection, set those aside. We are replacing them. Your kit came with brand new tins. We've removed everything, in exception of the slider pins and the slider pin boots. That's what's next. Go ahead and take hold of the bracket and the pin. We're holding onto the boot and sliding the pin out of position. During the removal process, we need to make sure we clean these down and give them a thorough inspection. You're going to find one of them will have a rubber vibration dampener. Now, as far as this, we're just using a clean rag. We're going to wipe this down. If you do have a rubber vibration dampener, do not use any parts cleaner. When we clean this, we're making sure nothing's rotted. We're also making sure up in this groove here is clean as well. This is where the boot sits. We need to make sure no moisture or debris make its way inside of the caliper bracket. After you've cleaned the slider pins, we're going to move along to each of the slider boots. This one does not have a vibration dampener. I'm going to use some parts cleaner. A thorough inspection, this looks good. Now, as I mentioned, one of them does have a vibration dampener, and that needs to go on the same side of the caliper as where you had removed it. It's time to remove our caliper slider boots. For these, we do intend on reusing them, so we don't want to damage them. Take hold of the boot, carefully roll it out of position. Once you have it removed, we're going to use a clean rag. We'll clean out any miscellaneous grease or debris from inside and give it a thorough inspection. To clean this out, I'm just using a rag. I'll give it a quick twist. We're going to slide it straight on through. Go ahead and roll that around. Yeah. Now we'll just make sure it's not torn, worn, or damaged. It's still soft and pliable. This is usable. We'll set it aside on the corresponding side. You typically don't have to worry about mixing these up. They should be the same. Both boots look good. Let's focus on the caliper bracket itself now. For this, we're going to clean inside of each one of our caliper slider pin ports and also the areas where we had removed our caliper bracket tins from. Let's start at the tin areas first. To clean the caliper bracket, you can either use a wire brush, some sandpaper, or even a sanding disc. So we have our caliper bracket in a collection receptacle. We're going to be using parts cleaner next. As far as the parts cleaner, we're going to carefully spray inside of each of our caliper slider pin ports. We'll use a bore brush, clean it out, give it a quick rinse and a close inspection. Now that I have this port cleaned, I need to pay close attention deep inside, confirming it's not rotted, there's no miscellaneous damage, but I also want to pay attention all the way on the outboard area here. There is going to be a small groove where our slider pin boot would need to sit. That needs to be clean and free of any debris. Now this does look good, so of course I need to repeat the process on the other side of the caliper bracket. Now at this point, we've fully cleaned the caliper bracket. We're ready to start our installation process at this point. We'll start with our caliper bracket tins. Now you're going to have 4 of these, 2 along each side of the caliper bracket. Before we install these, I like to use high temperature caliper lubricant on the caliper bracket where I had cleaned. This is going to help prevent rust buildup and also help with vibration dampening and noise reduction. Now once you have it lubricated, you're going to take your caliper bracket tins. You're going to find in the kit, it came with 2 different sides. You want to grab 2 for each side. So if we were looking closely at these tins, I have one in my hand here. We can see that we have this area that comes out. This would be down along the bottom of the bracket, but we also need to pay attention along each side. One side will be flat. That's where the brake rotor would be next to. The other side will have a ridged area that protrudes out. That needs to protrude out and away from the brake rotor. If you have it facing the wrong way, it could potentially hit the brake rotor. We don't want that. Go ahead and line it up. We'll press it straight in up against that caliper bracket. Double check, make sure it's secured. Repeat the process for all others. Next, it's going to be time to start installing our caliper slider boots. Prior to installing those, we'll take our high temperature caliper lubricant, make our way deep inside of that port and all the way out to the very tip. During the cleaning process, I had mentioned there's a small groove. That's where the boot sits. Apply lubricant. Once you have that in place, we'll take our boot, we're going to come in at an angle and gently press it in. Once you feel like it's in the proper positioning, we'll give it a quick twist and a light tug, confirming it's properly secured. Once your boot's installed, it's time for the slider pin itself. Lubricate the entire smooth shafted area, all the way down to the tip. Once you've done that, we're going all the way up close to where my fingers are. We have our small groove. Once again, this is where the boot sits. We need lubricant. This is going to help prevent moisture making its way in. Now that I have that lubricated, we're going to make sure we install it on the same side of the caliper bracket as where I had removed it. I have my vibration dampener. It's going in the same exact position. Press it in. We'll double check, make sure it's secured, and press out any air from inside of the boot. Repeat the process for the other side of the caliper bracket. Get that one in there. Work it around. Let's get this over to the vehicle. We'll carefully get this caliper bracket in place. I'm sliding it over the brake rotor. We have our 2 mounting bolts. Let's line this up. We'll start in those mounting bolts, lightly bottom them out. I have them started in. Let's snug them up and torque them to 203 foot-pounds. Now it's time for our brake pads. You're going to find the kit came with 4 brake pads. You don't have to worry about mixing them up. They are all the same. We're going to take the inboard pad. Let's just start this in. I'm coming in at an angle. We'll press it all the way towards the brake rotor. Once you have it in, give it a wiggle. If it does not move around or you had to tap it in with a hammer, you did not clean the caliper bracket well enough. This feels good, so I'm moving along to the outboard pad. Same process here. Come in at an angle, roll it in. That moves freely. This is exactly what I want to see. Now it's time for the caliper. Before we bring this in place, if there's any brake dust, just go ahead and clean that up. I'm going to use a wire brush, try to remove as much miscellaneous debris as possible. Now when we bring the brake caliper in place, we need to pay attention to our flex hose. We're confirming it's not twisted in a way that could restrict brake fluid flow. Let's bring this over our brake caliper pin sliders. Start in each of the 2 mounting bolts, snug them up. The torque for those will be 44 foot-pounds. They're both started in. We'll snug them up, torque them to 44 foot-pounds. Once you have the wheel in place, go ahead and start on all 5 of your 21mm lug nuts. You're going to bottom them out in a crisscross manner. Once you have the wheel back on the ground, torque each one of the lug nuts to 148 foot-pounds. Now I have the wheel back on the ground. Let's go ahead and torque each one of our lug nuts to that 148 foot-pounds. torqued. Okay friend, we showed you the installation on one side of the vehicle. Now whenever we do this, we always go over to the other side of the vehicle and repeat this exact same process. You do them as a pair. Now after that, you want to make your way inside of the passenger compartment. You're going to pump up that brake pedal till it feels firm, take your vehicle for a road test, and we always recommend getting yourself in alignment because we remove those wheel bearings. Aside from that, thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.